In recent years, we've begun to see the emergence of analog horror channels like Local 58 and Gemini Home Entertainment. Among these analog horror channels is a smaller channel known as Eventide Media Center. And with any good analog horror channel comes the deep and dark lore. Tons of theories and speculations for channels like Local 58 have come out in recent years, but almost no one has attempted to explain the story behind Eventide Media Center. That is, until today. The first question that I think needs to be answered is who is putting out these videos and where are they coming from? Now when I say who is putting these out and where they're coming from, I mean within the context of this fictional story, who is the person behind these videos? Well, the entity putting out these videos is known as the Eventide Valley Community Media Center and Library. The earliest known information about this center and library is from this picture taken from the Eventide Media Center Twitter. It says right here that the picture was taken in 1969. So this picture was taken pretty early on in the timeline. What is this place and what is its purpose? From watching all of the videos, I have come to the conclusion that this place was created to document and store all of the weird occurrences that began to happen in the fictional land of Eventide Valley. When it was created or who created it is still unknown to the viewer, but one thing is certain, whoever is documenting these incidents must be working with the people causing it. We will get back to this idea much later though. Another foundational piece that I have to lay down before getting deep into the lore of these videos is where these videos take place. They all take place in the lovely state of Massachusetts in the US. Here is a map taken directly from the creator's Discord, which lays out exactly where all of these strange videos take place. Now that we've established who is putting these videos out and where they are taking place, the more important question that needs to be answered is what exactly is happening in these videos. I believe that all of these videos tell the unfortunate events that took place in an area known as Eventide Valley. The story of this whole thing, you might ask? Well, these videos tell the story of how two people's dream to create a real-life impossible object led to the extinction of Eventide Valley and possibly even humanity. In the video Unusual Architecture, we are given context into these impossible shapes and their capabilities. The video starts off telling us the history of these shapes, showing off examples such as the Penrose staircase and the Penrose triangle, explaining that if someone were to figure out how to construct such a shape, it would allow one to have access to unlimited energy. This idea is the motive that led to these two individuals creating Eventide Valley's first impossible creation. This picture you're looking at right now is taken directly from the EMC Twitter and is labeled as Eventide Valley's first impossible construction. Now on the surface it seems very innocent. These two hard workers have done the impossible after all. But what these two don't know is that by creating a real-life Penrose triangle, they have just doomed their entire universe. Now I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, so let's get back to this video. Near the end we are shown steps to create an impossible shape. The third step is displayed, telling us that we are about to see a full rotational view of this impossible shape. However, just as it's rotating, a face begins to appear straight out of the object and the video cuts to black. Now the face coming out of the shape is important. This tells us that these impossible shapes hold much more than meets the eye. They serve as a portal that allows unworldly creatures into our 3D space. So how does this relate back to Eventide Valley's first impossible shape? Well, seeing that this was Eventide Valley's first impossible shape, it's entirely plausible that these two made an error which led to an otherworldly creature stepping outside of the shape and wreaking havoc on the planet. It even states in the video that if your shape is not volumetrically closed, it is a sign that there has been an error in your construction process. So clearly creating these impossible shapes in real life does something to link our world with other dimensional creatures. Now before we move on, I feel as though it's imperative that I lay out some kind of timeline for you guys to follow along. Unfortunately, there isn't too many dates or much that is set in stone, probably because this channel is still in its baby stage with only 8 videos being out right now, but based on the videos ahead, I believe that the timeline starts with the creation of this impossible shape, and the date at which I'm going to place this is in the late 1930s or early 1940s. I'll explain later why I chose this time when I get there. The next thing that had to have happened is the creation of the Eventide Valley Media Center. The reason for this is that the Eventide Media Center has to exist in order to document all of these weird occurrences on video. Following the creation of the Eventide Media Center is Massachusetts' first encounter with a creature that the world has never seen. We see this take place in Ocean View Forecast. The video begins as a normal forecast with some weird conditions, with the weather displaying an unnaturally high humidity percentage of 93% and having a cloud ceiling of 300 feet. Clearly there is something unusual going on. Within a half an hour, a super dense fog has begun overtaking Misty Point, Plymouth, Lucid Cove, and Boston, with winds going as fast as 81 miles per hour. Within a matter of minutes, the conditions get catastrophically worse, with a warning below telling us that something is emerging from the waters. A creature shaped like a heart begins to emerge from the water below. We see this shape twice in the video. Once here on the map, and then another time near the end of the video. This entity, whatever this thing is, will be the origin of the chaos that will ensue over all of the residents of Massachusetts. And remember, this creature came to be due to the carelessness of these two individuals that brought other dimensional creatures into their existence by creating this impossible shape. Now we know that this event had to have taken place in the 1940s because on the EMC Twitter, we are given a picture of Misty Point Lighthouse in 1943, and what can be seen floating above the sky? Yep, it's the exact same shape that we saw earlier, and the Eventide Media Center had to have already been created because how else would this have all been documented? Fast forward from 1943 to the 1950s and we get to the events of the video Midnight Movie. This one starts off showing credits to a movie known as Attack of the Somerville Spiders. The entire cast and credits are shown. Then the video cuts to this chilling sequence of showing us an in-memory screen explaining that there are a good amount of people that lost their lives from December 1952 to October 1953 while working under the Somber Film Company, stating that this film was dedicated to the families and friends of the deceased. Then what follows is a full display of the names of the lost individuals, which happened to be almost every single person that was involved in the making of this film. So, what does this video tell us? Well, it tells the viewer of a real event that took place. During this section right here when the video is about to cut to the next scene, we see this phrase change. The first thing it displays is talking about how the events in the movie are actually fictional. But once it cuts, there's two frames where you can see it now says that the events of this movie actually happened. The phrase in its entirety states, "The characters and events depicted in this photoplay may represent reality, and any similarity to actual persons, living or dead, may be indicative of historical events." Basically, the video you're watching is based on a real event that took place. Now we know that what we are watching is a movie, and since it's based on real events, it's safe to say that instead of there being an attack on Somerville, Massachusetts, there was a real attack on the actual city called Somerville, Massachusetts. And where is Somerville conveniently located next to? Boston, Massachusetts, the location that we just saw get overrun by this creature here. I believe that this creature from the Ocean View video somehow implanted itself into the earth and is now poised to take over the entire planet. Starting off small, taking over small sections like Misty Point and Boston, and now working its way towards Eventide Valley, making its way closer and closer to the object that allowed its conception. As it comes closer, it begins to bring inside other monsters such as spiders to wreak havoc on these neighboring cities. The next video after this is nuclear safety. This video is nothing more than Massachusetts' desperate attempt to keep these monsters away. It shows us that in 1970, the Massachusetts Threat Defense Group devised a plan to fend off these monsters that have begun to take over the world. The plan, you may ask? Well, the plan was to simply put out a nuclear explosion so big that it would take out not only the creatures, but us along with it. We know that this video is made in desperation because of the way that a nuclear attack is presented, citing that an attack is inevitable, and as such, one should mentally prepare for the day it happens. Basically, the government knows about these creatures and knows that in due time, we will be completely overrun, with our last option being nuclear warfare. It's a very American mentality. If we can't win, then everyone goes down with us. Fast forward from the 1970s to 1987 and we arrive at the city council video. This video depicts a city council meeting that takes place in Old Gosford, which is just outside of Eventide Valley. This video is pretty tame, with people just talking about details for an upcoming project, with a pastor intervening and then suddenly being silenced, with the lead speaker telling us that there is video proof of this crazy thing that has been found. The footage we see shows that something unearthly has been discovered. A beating heart with a galactic glow has implanted itself into the earth. Just as the meeting ends, we cut to footage of a monster appearing out of the ground. Now, if you haven't been able to tell already, the way in which these monsters start appearing suggests that they are in fact brought upon by whatever this entity was in the Ocean View video. How do I know this? Well, let's take a look at the map from the Eventide Media Center. Again, this map was taken from the private Discord section that the EMC channel has. It shows the entire layout of the area in which these monsters are taking over. Notice how the first appearance starts out at Misty Point, and since the Misty Point entity, the monsters have only began moving further west, starting at Misty Point, going to Somberville, then Eventide Valley, and now they are taking over Old Gosford. Since Misty Point, these creatures have implanted themselves in the earth and seem very interested in making it their own. We see this happen further in the last few videos: Deep Night, Computer Graphics, and OASIS Greenhouse. These 3 videos take place last in the entire series as of right now, and they show off what exactly is going on. All these videos take place just after the city council video. In Deep Night, we see the monsters have spread their growth to various parts of Massachusetts. The video shows us all of the various holes and infection that is spread due to these creatures, eventually giving us a glimpse of what exactly we're dealing with, and ending with the phrase, "Growth nearly complete," basically telling us that these creatures have completed their goal and have now taken over this part of the earth. In the video Computer Graphics, we are given the motive. Why are these monsters doing this, and what do they have to gain? The video seems normal at first. It just looks like computer parts being shown off in a similar format that the Unusual Architecture video used. After being shown animations and models, we are then brought to the eerie part of the video, the character models. This is where we begin to realize that what we are looking at isn't actually a motherboard or computer parts. This video is a representation of what the Earth looks like right now. We see this happen at the end when the video shifts, revealing these humans sleeping in beds, hooked up to whatever electrical wiring this is. The humans are being used Matrix style, meaning that the creatures subdue any humans they find and plug them into these machines that they have built. We know for a fact that this video is an actual representation of what's happening on Earth because of yet another picture taken from the EMC Twitter. This picture shows us the same exact motherboard layout, and where is it located? In a real living forest out in Massachusetts. You can definitely start seeing the comparisons here when you look at the motherboard. These triangle shaped green things are actually supposed to be trees, so clearly these 2 pictures are supposed to be representative of each other. So clearly these monsters have taken control and are looking to use the Earth as nothing more than an energy source. As for why they need the energy is unknown, but I assume as more videos come out on the channel, we will get more answers. This leads us to our last video, OASIS Greenhouse. This video's purpose is to exemplify just how bad things have gotten, showcasing the various types of growths and monstrous plants that have risen out of the ground, even showing us how people are being turned from whole body people into fluid that is then used for these monsters' food. We get a glimpse of this at the end when we see this arm sticking out of this acidic plant. So that's what's going on in these videos. It started with the man's dream to create the impossible. Little did they know, creating this shape would open up the world to life forms we hadn't seen before. Although at first it didn't seem like much, over the course of 40 some years, the problem would only worsen, and ultimately these monsters would begin their takeover of the Earth. Now this story is fine and all, but there's still one loose end that I can't wrap my head around. Who is behind the Eventide Media Center videos? And I don't mean who created the channel, because we all know who that is. It says it right here in the description of each video. What I mean is, in the context of the story's world, who is running the Eventide Community Media Center? This is the one thing that there is no hard evidence on, but I still feel like there is enough information to make an apt guess. I believe it's clear that these alien creatures are the ones behind the Eventide Media Center, compiling videos and tapes of their takeover, archiving all of their history with planet Earth. If you notice at the beginning of each video, it starts off with static, almost as if we are watching recordings. Sometimes it even shows the word play, indicating that we are in fact watching a VHS of some sort. The fact that someone was able to record all of these incidents and create these infographics within this world leads me to believe that they have to be with the aliens, because how else would they have survived this long? One last thing that gives me pause that I am correct about this is the fact that in the picture of the Eventide Community Media Center, we can see what looks to be a real eyeball coming from the building, telling us that whatever is in the building is definitely not from this world. Let me know your thoughts on this theory below. I think it fits together quite nicely, but to be honest, I do feel like I'm stretching a bit with some of these points. Feel free to comment your own personal theory on the Eventide Media Center videos. Also, if you haven't already, go support me on Patreon. I'm trying my best to save up enough money to move out within the next year or so anything will help. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss another upload. With all of that said, I will see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.